Shout out to Red Bull real quick, though. You already know. The only carbonated drink I drink. Give me my check. Yeah, well, y'all know who it is. Yes, the highest host, Adam Hill, right here. It's the OG Potcast. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all could be anywhere in the world right now doing whatever you want. And you're here with me wherever, if you're in the car, or the grow room, or the trim, or the shop, or at your mom's house, or in the basement, or at home in the living room, wherever the fuck you at. I appreciate y'all tuning in because y'all gonna be doing anything in your life. And you're here with me. And before I get to this amazing panel, I got a special co-host that's gonna be coming in. We've been talking about it for a little bit. He'll be coming in a little bit. Yeah. And I got a super OG cannabis legend, SoCal. He'll be up here in a minute. I used to watch some of his videos when I was doing my podcast in the beginning. I used to go to his weed shop and buy some weed. He used to have the best hash in the whole valley too. I remember.
Holler.
I remember these days. We'll get to. But before I get into all that, I want to just talk about one thing real quick. Because this cannabis community industry is turning real corporate, and something irked me the other day. I saw this company that is starting that is trying to place professionals into the cannabis industry, into top leading cannabis brands. And this is just a little bit of how they're taking away from the people that have been here and understand the culture and have been doing this their whole life. And they're just trying to get people that are professional, that see money. And they're just like, oh, this is a new industry I'm gonna get in. And they're taking, I have a lot of friends, a lot of small businesses that are getting fucked right now with all the rules and regulations that the BCC is doing. And, they're trying to change shit all the time. And they don't have the big money that these hedge fund investor companies have. And what they're doing is they're really fucking up the culture. I feel like they're getting rid of the people that are really involved in the community that have been here through it all, through the rage,
they
through the arrest.
About the moms, the pops, the aunts, the uncles, the grandmas.
They're filling it with all the corporate. They're trying to change the image, and it's just taking away from the whole culture. And I'm just super upset about it. It's great that all these jobs are opening. It's great that there's all these opportunities happening with the legalization, but there's also a lot of bullshit that's happening. Weed has gotten way more expensive, and it fucking sucks now. You pay like $72 for an eighth, and it ain't worth shit. At least back in the day, like 2009, when you spent $100 on an eighth, it was some bum OG that they put love in.
Right.
But not these days. But
I bought a zip at a dispensary the other day, and they gave it to me. And when I opened it up, it was like all little popcorn.
It was not what they showed you.
It's a different scene right now.
A lot of bait and switch. That's Sid Wilson, Mr. Sid, patient zero, my special co-host for the day. He might be coming in now. We've been talking about doing it. He's the one that made me relaunch the podcast. He used to bug me and say, yo, when are you doing your podcast?
Good work, Sid.
Yeah.
So, fuck yeah.
I was supposed to, come in, but, my schedule.
Yeah, he was going to be the co-host, but he's a fucking rock star.
Right. He's got shit to do.
Star,
I got a fucking Grammy award-winning rock star here. I'm like, yeah, bro, we'll do a podcast whenever you in town. I know, whatever.
I was like, I'm making music.
It's part of the creative process. That once I'm in this space, I don't want to break that up. Yeah.
Then I got to go snowboarding,
It's part of the lifestyle, bro.
I'm a rock star, bro.
You got to maintain your personal brand with those activities.
You don't have a schedule. I respect that. You worked hard enough to do it.
What's the point? Right.
And of course, Mr. Puppy Man, the dude who's been on YouTube and created content before all of us probably started smoking weed.
Me and the
it's true, Dave. I know you've seen it. Mr. Dave Warden in the building. You might have seen him at the weed. You might have seen him on the YouTube. You might have seen him at Cannabis Cup accepting awards, creating a bunch of brands in the industry. And you had to, it was called The Weed Report.
Weed Report,
If y'all are on YouTube and you want to see some old weed videos, it was original. He created content. He did little bits and skits. And this was before like Instagram.
People were too scared.
Right.
People were too scared.
My hook was, the real hook why people remembered me is because I used my real name. Everybody was like Stoner Monkey 99 or I'm Bong Master. No, my name's Dave Warden, and here's some bomb ass fucking weed.
Here's my IMDb. I'm also on TV. Right. You might have seen me in commercials and TV shows.
And it just, I was what kind of started it because I was a cable television producer for a long time. And once shows, like, I made gardening shows and cooking shows. And this is like for 12 years when I first moved to LA. I worked at Nickelodeon for a while, making cartoons. Yeah.
Slime me.
I was a TV producer, and then jobs started drying up after like shows like Jackass and stuff came out and started showing that you didn't need
a production
so many
crew.
over fucking paid Californians to make a TV
Right.
show. You just needed like some 15-year-old with a camera and some dude with a computer.
Yeah.
And you're good. And that sort of shifted the industry because I was from that old school television sort of background.
Right.
So
PAs and
all that
DPs
shit.
and
So I was like unemployed for like a year and a half, and I was acting a little bit and fucking around, but mostly just in a professional fucking slump. And my last job in television had been working on this Carson Daly pilot that never got picked up called It's Your Show. And they were trying to do this YouTube, like make movies for YouTube, and they have a contest and you'd win money, like a produced America's Funniest Home Video sort of vibe.
Right.
You know?
A contest.
And the show didn't go. It wasn't very good because it was the thing about the internet. It's about like getting kicked in the nuts and porn and kitty cats. Like the only part we could show is the kitty cats, right?
Porn getting kicked in the nuts and kitty cats.
So you can't broadcast television. You can't do any of the cool shit that was on the internet. You know?
Cats.
So that show didn't make it, but I got all this data from the internet from like NBC. And I was like, fuck. So I figured out how people were using the internet, and I realized the only content that I could make that anyone would watch, because I wasn't like a 15-year-old girl or fucking an X Gameser, was fucking about this insane weed that I could get that almost no one in the world can get from all these fucking badass shops in Los Angeles.
You had the name brand weed before it was name brand.
Dude, way before this shit. It was crazy fucking fire.
Yeah, and you would show the weed you would get, talk about the strains, because people were like, all these strains started coming up with dispensaries. People needed to move their products, so strains started becoming a thing. And then you would show wax and dabs and butter.
Yeah, it was like,
And you would know
it was
too when you got something different. It was like,
it was
you know
gnarly.
what I mean?
And the thing is, we showed a lot of people their first dabs. They'd never seen it. They'd heard of a dab but never seen it. And it was like, here's sitting around. I had just learned a few weeks before too.
So it was like an educating platform for people, but also
with a bit of entertainment. Like I would put in comedy skits and stuff.
That was the goal of this podcast, is to educate while entertaining.
You know what I mean? So everyone fucks it up. I'll tell you why people fuck up weed podcasts here is because
let me take notes.
Is at that point, especially fucking everyone wants to talk about politics and laws and changing regulations, and fuck that. Let's talk about weed.
Talk about the culture.
Let's show this weed. Let's show and then let's talk how high it gets you and fucking
how we can smoke it.
Then we fly off in a helicopter over Hawaii, or we do, that's what kind of it was. And sort of
helicopter. I like that.
There's one episode opens in a helicopter and ends in a submarine because
you piece like certain things together.
My addiction in life is luxury travel.
Do you feel like
so? I would just shoot. My girlfriend's a good camera person too, so like we would shoot bits on vacation.
Were you always passionate about cannabis? Was this something that
since I was 15, I had smoked constantly every day.
So was that the first time you smoked at 15, or were you
that was the first. Like I was in Northern Virginia. It was hard to get weed.
And
so
once you smoked, were you like, oh, this is it?
I'm from Iowa.
Every day?
So like that was getting good buds in Iowa.
We didn't even in those days. We'd heard of kind bud. We didn't see it. All we got was Jamaican and Mexican brick weed. It was all brick weed.
Right.
And then one time we got some Hawaiian weed, and we thought it was the greatest thing.
Like,
in the
holy
fucking
crap,
world.
weed's green.
Yeah, no, totally. I thought it was brown, and I thought it was hard. And where are the seeds? Like
this is boring. I need to separate it.
The weed was so gnarly. It was so gnarly. I was like, I know that 99% of the world can't get weed like this right now. So that was my porn, or that was my kick in the nuts that I had
weed
to show.
The shock value.
And once again, I used my real name so people were able to identify with me more. And I didn't sit and do that fucking boring hippie politics thing where you go, and then this is a this, and this, where they're trying to be all credible. I was high and telling jokes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's so lifestyle.
So people could identify with that, and then they get the information too. But, it was a bitch. Like I had to call a lot of friends and a lot of favors, and
it takes a lot.
It does. It takes a lot of work. But the main thing is, you've gone through this, I'm sure, with your thing. Is, dude, everyone, once you get kind of popular, everyone is fucking with you, and you get so many like fake deals, and you waste so much fucking time doing this. You're like, dude, I gotta go. I got a job selling weed now. I got the job from doing the podcast, and I started managing 2 dispensaries within like 6 months.
So you did the videos before you were at the shop?
Yeah, that's how I got on.
That's how they hired you. Like, oh,
yeah, they're like, this is the weed report dude. Like, okay,
So-
you can be a bud tender.
He's the one.
And that's one of the things I like talking about is the guerrilla marketing that we do in this industry, because you can't, like, back then you couldn't advertise on the radio or TV. It was like shunned. You couldn't show any.
It was the only way. YouTube was the only way.
YouTube-
Instagram wasn't around, and Facebook
Barely started.
Yeah, and so it's
Which
like
was still super brave to be doing. You know what I mean? A lot of people didn't have the guts
people
to do.
still had masks on, and
You know, yeah, exactly. That's
They
what
fake.
I mean. It's like it's different to just come out and go, look, this is what's happening.
And like I was in the LA Times.
You motivated me to get off my ass and do more shit too. I was like, look at
right
Dave.
on, dude.
Dave's out here doing it in the valley. I'm gonna fucking do this shit too.
Yeah,
let's go.
It was a good time, and it was a lot of fun. Like that was a great era in California cannabis. Oh my god, like the emergence of retail and this culture and sort of this dab bar scene and fucking all that you
the
could
community that
you
came out of it.
We were just understanding how to use the internet to share information quicker. So concentrates were getting better.
Strains
were getting way better because people were communicating and
teaching
fucking
tech on how to grow.
Dude, you could get
California
fucking
sticky
tech.
rolls got better.
Dude, everything got better. You know what I mean? And video games got better at the same time. So that was fucking sick.
Yeah.
But so yeah, dude.
Grand Theft Auto, you can smoke a bong in your apartment.
It's amazing.
That's crazy.
You know? And we just like, I mean, you were there. It was just interesting. There was this whole shop culture that people don't really understand. Like every dispensary had a different vibe and it was run a completely different way.
Yes.
And sometimes it was the bro dispensary and sometimes it was like
the Armenian homies or the Russians or the
Russians.
Asians.
And they all had a different vibe and they all, lots of still cool people, but they brought their cultural aspect to it. So that's sort of vibe. And then the weed they could get and what their standard of weed was. So really, guys like Adam and I would go to like this set of maybe 10 shops in all of Los Angeles. And it was really more like 5 or 4, depending on who had what. And you would go around and just find these people. Dude, did you hear about this? And we would go on Weed Tracker.
And
fucking talk about that shit.
Weed Tracker.
Remember?
Yep.
Weed Tracker
in
was
the chat rooms.
shit.
I had my own room, the podcast.
That was a really familiar time. We were having these meetups and these parties were
Weed
finally
Tracker
getting
parties,
good.
yeah.
Dude, and some of them are really good.
It sucks what happened though. You heard what happened? I heard the rumor of how Weed Tracker went down. And
how was that?
So they were saying that Weed Tracker started getting full of like narcs and there was a lot of like cops that on it. And then Weed Maps all of a sudden appeared and everyone just went to Weed Maps and Weed Tracker like debunked because of the whole.
I remember something like that. Well, you know what really fucked them? Because Weed Maps was just starting, Justice for Weed Maps was just kind of launching the thing, right? And they shut down for a week to like reboot.
Weed Tracker?
Yeah, to launch version 2.0. And that's what you would do in those days, like, 2.0. But they shut down for like a week to implement it.
It's too long.
So everyone was like missing their community and it's how we communicated.
Yeah.
You know, it's how you found out where all the good weed was.
Forums.
And people like, it was a very nerdy pastime, like very nerdy to go around and get specific concentrates, specific eights. And people would drive long ways. So like heady culture at that time was just exploding. And it was crossing fucking socioeconomic gaps and age gaps because you would have fucking 60-year-old dude showing up like, dude, I heard the green crack is on fire today. Like, fuck, like, dude, oh my God. And your friends, it's weird because like your group of friends would be like, you'd be the only person, no matter what age you were the only person your age. And there'd be like a really old guy or an old lady. There'd be like a fat dude, a skinny dude, a short dude, an extra tall dude. And we were, everyone like different race, different religion.
That's when I learned.
It's like a Weed Anonymous meeting.
Yeah, totally, dude. So
being a bud tender, working at a dispensary, I'm sure you learned this too, is you understand that everybody smokes weed. Every demographic, the soccer mom, the politician, the street worker, the government worker, the postal man, the dude that sits at home and plays video games all day.
And working in Los Angeles, you
from
realize
18 to 88.
You realize how many, that all celebrities smoke weed, which everyone already knows. But like sometimes it's funny because you could tell the level of a person's celebrity by if they come in themselves or they send their assistant. Right. And their assistant almost never doesn't let it slip who they're there for. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they're trying to impress you and you're like, dude, this is Studio City. Yeah. Like every third person in here is like, because the producers and the directors, you don't recognize.
No, you don't.
That's not fucking, you recognize celebrities.
You don't know the talent agents. You don't know any of those.
You know, but people roll in and like, but then the real weed nerd guys, Seth Green would come in and get his own. And I always thought that was fucking sick. Yeah, he's super legit.
He's a big star.
I always get my own. I have someone else. You know? If I said someone else, they'd just fuck it up.
It's fucking Jack Nicholson's assistant used to come in and and get our super jack because
I have to be like
a picture of him on the label, and she's like, "Oh, he's gonna fucking love this."
You could be like,
That's cool that he loved it.
You could be like Bieber famous to send somebody in because like you might just get, you might not make it in the front door,
like Justin Timberlake or Drake.
Well,
you can't walk 10 feet without people hoarding you.
It was funny just because fucking like if you're into a specific style of music, you might know. Like it was weird because half the people in the shop would start freaking out and be like, "That's DJ so and so," and you'd be like,
who?
Who's that? Yeah, and then somebody else walks in the shot, and that like whatever your favorite genre of music, you're like, "Oh my god, that was Eco Weasel," or whatever. Who the
fuck is that? And you learn a lot. You learn about everything too, because it's all diverse though.
Well, and it's sometimes I would just be like, "God damn, this guy has a lot of jewelry on. Fuck, his chain is sick." You know what I mean? And the dude would walk out and be like, "Oh, that was some famous rapper."
Amigos.
Yeah, totally. And I would be like,
"Oh, cool."
He had a vibe. I could see why he's famous.
So let me go back, Dave, because I want to know who Dave Warden is and how he got here. You are so you're in the middle America.
Virginia, like Washington D.C.
Okay,
so like suburbs of Washington.
You're
D.C.
smoking some swag. You're 15 years old. The first time you're smoking, is it a joint, a bong?
A joint, like a pinner joint. We got kicked off a camping ground for having a fire, having alcohol as teenagers, and then having a fire, like not in the fire pit, like we made our own area.
So we
got busted, so we got kicked out, so we couldn't go home.
Were you a bad kid, or was this just like coincidence?
I was rebellious. I was like that kid who got good grades and was rebellious, but got good enough grades that you didn't really get in trouble.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like he's still on a path.
Yeah,
he's gonna be okay
smart.
If we could just get him through high school.
Yeah,
he's just having fun.
He's smart. He's just being a kid.
I was super anti-establishment, and that kind of has gotten in the way of my whole life.
You think that's because of the cannabis consumption?
Certainly. I mean, because that was your first. That's like the society is lying to you, especially in like a very conservative area like Northern Virginia. You know that like all these people are bullshit and they're holding you to a standard that's higher to them, and they're judging you for being a stoner or whatever. And then you have it and you see behind the curtain and you're like, I knew it. I knew it was awesome back here. And then once you go back behind the curtain, most people never come back out.
I'd say it led you down the right path.
I hope so. Man.
So 15, you're smoking some swag. You're going to school. You're getting good grades. You graduate high school.
Right. Go to college, Northern Arizona University, broadcast production major, broadcasting student of the year, 1996.
What?
Yeah, I peaked early. No, and then I came out and I started working, making cartoons at Nickelodeon, and that was an amazing time.
Like animate? Like you were drawing them?
No, I was a production coordinator.
Did you work on Rugrats?
You know what? I worked with the Rugrats team. They were at Klasky Chupo, and I was at Nickelodeon in-house. But
so
all those
Devo. That's like a Devo association, right?
Yeah.
The guy from Devo made that cartoon.
And he did there's some sound. I mean, it's that whole...
Nickelodeon's got some influential people working like behind the scenes.
Well, they create some superstars too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it was a really good time because the network was still already huge. You know, I'd watched it when I was a kid, but it was just blowing up even more. And we went from being in this tiny little studio with like 40 artists, right? And it was just like me and like 4 or 5 other production people, and it was just professional animators from like back in the day. And dude, they would hit you at your desk. You'd be sitting at your desk. You get hit with squirt guns, bouncy balls, like fucking
annoying shit.
They would go out. Well, no, it was fucking awesome. You're right out of college and you're like, yeah, dude, fucking squirt gun fight breaks out in the middle of this fucking office.
My papers, bro.
You know, it's one day everyone just walks out in the parking lot and starts drawing with chalk, and they're all professional artists, and it's just like they make the entire story of like the cartoon you're working on in chalk, and like but in like some abstract Roman way.
That's so awesome.
It was amazing. It was an amazing time, and it was corporate America was booming then, dude. Like if you went to college and you just showed up in LA, they would just hand you a fat job with benefits, and it was fucking amazing. The rave scene was popping off, and that's kind of like why my acting career never took off. Instead of networking with people, which you have to do in Hollywood, you got to network and go to parties and shit. If you want to be an actor, you have to kiss ass. I was going to raves. Like I discovered ecstasy and fucking easy girls. And I was like, dude, I love Los Angeles. You know what I mean? And, I mean, that's a true story.
We just got to take this pill and that's it.
Dude, like, whoa. And you know, I started raving and I was like,
deep in that scene.
I was probably like 4 years older or 5 years older than most of the other ravers. Cause I was like, you know what I mean? I was going to these raves and these kids were all 17 and 18 and stuff like that.
I was like the 13, 14.
Yeah. I mean,
they were like, why is he here?
I was
just get all the drugs.
No, he's cool, dude. No, it's cool. No, and
my brother was a DJ at those, so I would be there in like high school dropping acid and shit.
And that, once again, I saw this other side of reality and this other possible way of living. You know what I mean? And I've been raised in such an uptight community that, you know, real. When you like they try and hold you in and you explode twice as fucking hard.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If they just let me freak out a little bit as a kid, I wouldn't have become such a Burning Man.
It's almost like
guy, you know?
It's almost like a rebirth of Studio 54, but a miniature version in every city across the United States.
And it was fucking colder because it was always outdoors in the mountains.
It's like a mini version.
Just follow the road of glow sticks and you'll find us. Make it right at the rocks.
So I just kept, at that point, I left Nickelodeon to do some acting, but then I realized I liked money a lot. So I went back and started making cable TV shows, like not really exciting ones, like cooking shows, gardening shows, you know what I mean? And I was the unit production manager
variety shows.
And line producer. So I was like the dude who hired and fired everyone and watched the budget, which is, I'm really good at, but that's not fun. It's after a while, it's kind of,
creatively, it's not as fun.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And so then I moved into like creative producing, stuff like that. And right when I did, the industry had a big sort of shutdown because new media was coming online. Hulu had just been developed. No one knew what it was, but everyone in TV knew it was going to kill us all. All the old, you know what I mean? We knew like this shit is going to be dope. Like I was working on a set.
Frightening.
It's like radio with the new
when TV comes on.
Yeah.
No, it's like, it felt like radio. And then suddenly we got TV and somebody been like, we can see people in there now, you know, because the whole streaming thing. And so the industry evolved, it became different and I didn't work. And basically I was like pretty much desperate. And I was like, fuck it, dude. It's not like I'm going to lose a job for doing this video right now. I have all this information. I'm going to make this internet show about weed and I'm going to use my real name because no one else is. And as a television producer, I was able to see why everyone else's videos were boring or why they suck. I was able to break it down, you know, and like you have segments. I did segments and it was just a regular TV show. You'd do the intro, which at first was just me sitting on the couch. And people loved it. Like I started putting in extra effort and no one really, they thought it was funny, but they were like, dude, we would still watch this if you're just sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
But like, I would be like in Hawaii or Alaska or someplace crazy. And we would shoot a video like with me, like right after we smoked a joint and we're on something and we would do stuff like that. And it made it like more creatively fulfilling for me, but it also made it a shitload more work.
A lot more work. Does that ever happen to you? Because I've created a couple content and sometimes I put in a lot of work to a video and sometimes I just post something randomly. And the shit that I just randomly do that I put no effort in gets like way more views than something I actually thought out.
Because like creating something organically awesome, you can build something organic and awesome if you take the time to, or you can just capture something funny that happened. And they have equal value on the web and you could spend $1 million or you could spend nothing. And there's, you know what I mean? Like it's better to have the kick in the nuts, dude. That's the internet loves the kick in the nuts.
So how do you feel doing these shows like 10 years ago and seeing how the content has changed now?
You know what, dude? At the time, I kind of knew, like one of my buddies was like, dude, that thing got so popular. How could you not turn it into anything? And it was too early. And I was like, it was just too early. And then like, you know, started getting higher up in the weed game and making money and traveling and having fun and partying. And I was just like, everything, I got what I wanted. You know what I mean? But I got it on a professional level instead of a media level.
So
you know what I mean?
You started just creating content and you would go to different dispensaries picking up weed.
Right.
One of the dispensaries recognized you from the YouTube page. Because a lot of people ask me, how do you get in the cannabis industry? What do you do? I'm like, just, you know what? Take the first job that's given to you.
Right. A new job was opening up and I was doing real estate and producing television. I was making a lot of money. I was doing really like, you know, that yuppie professional Cali
thing. The weed was the passion.
Yeah. And
cannabis.
And I'd been unemployed for like a year and a half. So I was super flexible and I took an $11 an hour job as a bud tender, but I was so fucking hardcore. Even from the first day I announced the opening on YouTube and the people saw 100 people, which in those days for a collective, cause you had to get your medical recommendation and do all those things.
Yeah.
And that was a lot because most people open and it takes months for them to get even close to that.
3 people a day.
Yeah. And so they had 100 people the first day because we announced
a lot of them returning patients.
So they saw the ROI. They're like, okay, we see you.
You can work here, but I still had to, like, they made me fucking bust my ass. Like you have to, when shit changes in your life, sometimes you have to humble yourself. You know what I mean? And I just started over and it was easy to get ahead because I worked really hard. And it was a bunch of stoners who had never done anything but grow weed, or they're friends of people who grew weed, and they all had just made it by on selling eights and playing video games.
Lacked
so like for me, it was like,
bring to the table.
I was like, we could sit here and just smoke here. Yeah, let's make this do this. And we started because, you know, I was a television dude, so it's like, let's do specials and let's do, you know, and shit that I'll say this now and people are like, oh, that wasn't him. Now that, but I was actually the first person to do a Saturday special.
I don't doubt it.
CBD Sunday is a thing that a lot of people still do. We were the first ones that we came up with that one.
That's awesome.
a waxy taxi, aka the butter bus, which was we would at first just roll a cart out with fucking slabs on it and lights under them and do it like just deli style, like New York, and people would just line up.
Nice.
And we would bust out shatter, and it was the bargain cart. And it wasn't bad stuff. It just wasn't the best.
The knowledge, we didn't have the tech.
Dude, we wouldn't have dabbed any of this shit. If we had the testing we have now, we wouldn't have touched any of that shit.
That's what
I
I'm
am
saying.
toxic, dude. Like, we smoke so much butane.
So much sizzle.
All this fucking hydrogen
You'd be
cyanide.
making it yourself too. Like,
Yeah, we were blasted.
We didn't, dude. The first oil we called it sexy oil, and that did not catch on because it was too weird. People were like, because at first people grabbed it like it's sexy, like we'd never seen anything like it. It glowed, and people were like, that's sexy, and we called it sexy oil, and no one thought that was like, just didn't catch it. And then once we started calling it shatter, then that became a thing. You know what I mean? Like people understood what it was. It described the consistency. But you could have black shatter or golden shatter. There was everything in the middle, and we smoked it all.
Everything.
Dude. Like fucking, like we had no idea.
We didn't care. We didn't know what it was.
We didn't know, and now it's like I think back and see some of the
horrible.
Now if there's like some tiny little thing that could never, parts per billion, I get upset. And it's like, dude, you were straight huffing cans of butane, basically.
Yeah.
You need to get over yourself. Like, still
out
like
of PVC, like they were blasting using PVC pipes.
and we figured out
We're like,
slowly, and then like rapidly, like at first it was slow and it was kind of shit. You got off the internet and your friends showed you, but then people started making metal, welding big extraction tubes and making, blowing big glass extraction tubes. And that was like this primitive fucking industrialization that we went through. And suddenly people would come with, and they come with slabs. And
what year is this?
This is like 2009, 2010.
It's
You know what I
crazy because
mean?
then they start having like meth lab type
the
explosions.
meth lab is, in LA, the cops said at that time that there was way more butane explosions than meth lab explosions.
Yeah.
I know two kids that blew themselves up twice, and the second time they were just fucked up for life. And, it was because they were making so much money. You could make a lot more money making concentrates at that time than growing weed because no one had this badass fucking concentrates, and you could only get it certain places.
And in addition, if your grow had like PM or mold and you couldn't sell it, you're like, blast it,
fucking, and fucking, you know what I mean? So
All
people
the
are making
trash.
a lot of money. So like people would blow themselves up and they would just go back to doing it because they couldn't get over the lifestyle of that they could be their own boss. They did something they loved, and they couldn't go back to a
It's
9
like
to 5,
it's like in food industry. It's like meat. They have the meat. We get all the good cuts for all the humans and everything, and then the scraps and everything go into dog food and like so on and so on. So we're like hash and wax is like the dog food.
Well, I used to say
it's the evolution.
We could figure out something to do. I used to say all parts of the buffalo, like that Indian saying, like they use every part of the buffalo. Like, dude, if you give me a pile of stems, I can make some dope ass like edibles or fucking topical out of that. And that was the attitude. Like we could do, because we had all this hippie mojo that's kind of been forgotten. You know what I mean? And speaking of this, I made this topical for you.
What?
Okay, so that is about as full spectrum as you could get. That had CBD flower, THC flower, distillate, RSO, water hash, some ice wax, and
oh yeah.
Yeah, so
Let me
that's
try some of that.
That's like the fucking
I busted my back.
It smells delicious too.
Yeah, no, so that's like everything. That has the phytochemicals, as the chlorophyll, everyone's obsessed with it.
I can just rub that right on my injury.
Dude, right on there, it'll go right in.
That's the thing is, you've seen the evolution of this cannabis industry. Like I know there's a lot, like the alcohol industry hasn't really changed much in the hundreds of years, but cannabis, we learning more about it, and the more legally accepted it's becoming, the more people are going to spend money on learning about it. We're learning all the chemical compounds, THC, CBD, CBN, THCV, Delta 9 THC, decarboxylating it, the difference between edibles and shatter and butter and diamonds and sauce and oils, and there's just everything.
It's ridiculous, dude. Like
it turns into a super clear oil real quick. This stuff.
Yeah, no, it's just, it'll really hook you up. Just like extra virgin coconut oil, and you can eat it or you can use it as a topical, and it's fucking, if I put it on, if the dog has arthritis, shoot it up, dude. That like dogs love that.
My dog's limping right now.
Do you have a favorite strain?
I mean, I guess if I was forced to stick with one, it would probably be Afghan Kush or like a Bubba Kush, like one of those Afghanica,
like that.
Like old school. You don't really get them much anymore because they've been so hybridized.
Yeah, that's
but
the pre-98.
The pre-98, baby.
Yeah,
The
everyone's wearing
Platinums,
Gorilla Glue
the
now
fucking-
and like Tangy.
Yeah, no, and that
pre-98.
stuff it's really hard to find. No one, because it didn't dump, the yields were low, so people stopped growing it. But
that's why I'm glad I know
love
some
that
of these.
stuff. Like it was just so where I needed to be. It just made you from like, oh my God, to, yeah, baby. It just totally just transformed your energy. You don't miss that stuff.
This is kind of some Bubba. But I found
that's not bad. No, that has some.
I found a couple old school growers that had the same plant for like 20 years, and they're about to like chop it down because it's not yielding. But they know it's such a good strain.
You gotta.
And I'm like, yo, please, let me just get the clone. Can I put it in? Can I grow it? Let me just get a couple
preservation society, dude. Yeah. Strain preservation. There needs to be a society dedicated, and there are.
There has to be a guy that just is.
There's a lot of them out there that are hoarding. They're like that's the one thing. Breeders. There are a lot of really cool breeders like. Independent, undiscovered people that have shit that we
need like the comic book scientist compound with all of them like in a file and like vials, like some weird futuristic vault full of every
I'm sure they started a DNA database of the genetics. And
sure.
I'm sure they're compiling some data right now. And the more education we have on terpenes.
Let's get the hemp embassies on this stuff.
And strains. I'm sure they all got it. But is there something that's the craziest thing you've seen in this whole past decade of the cannabis community?
You mean like crazy industry? Good or crazy stony or crazy bad?
Let's go with crazy good. Can I hear great? Yeah, crazy good.
Crazy good. Strangely, the rise of branding fucking was great because it really helped you differentiate product and you could start to lock down. It was, you know what I mean? It made forgery a little harder, a little bit.
You couldn't just claim you had a strain.
Right. Like people knew to look for certain packaging. And that really wasn't as much about the brand credibility, but it's just the brand identities got developed. And that was fun because, I worked with Nameless and we did really well. And
great. I got some Nameless gear and I smoked many Nameless strains.
Yeah. And so that was really fun. It was stewarding a brand and curating a brand and like having a brand voice in the weed game and being able to just sort of decide and control the identity of it. And I think like a lot of people from that era ended up finding out that not only were they good at like hustling weed or growing weed or extracting weed, but they're also good at marketing.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like those dudes from Moxie, dude, they're fucking OG as fuck. They murdered it, and we did really well. Nameless. And you see like Sherbinsky now.
Sherbinsky's killing
that. That dude used to come by the fucking, he came by the weed one time with packs, and we're like,
West Coast Cure was killing it.
Oh yeah. No. And
G-Pen was killing it.
Dude, all those.
LA Kush was killing it.
Boom. And that was really, and so you see that there's a lot of similarities between people. What we didn't really understand, that now we see it and we can use the marketing vernacular, but at the time, hustle was about it was about understanding the flow and dynamics and the price of what you had and the value of what you had. And so that's how we would buy weed for a certain amount and then sell it for more, knowing if I get it, these people need this, it has a different value in each area.
Yeah.
And so we hustled and then we started to figure out what the values were there's emotional attachments. This dude really likes Bubba Kush. This dude likes OG. But he grew some Bubba. He does and you would just switch that shit. $200 a pack. Bam, you drive across town to get paid. And we started to develop archetypes. You'd run, pretty much everybody ran a dispensary or owned a dispensary that was doing these brands. And so you saw, like you learned that all these different patients come in and they all got different shit going on. But you'd start to feel what parts of the personality do all these people have it. Everyone who comes in for super bomb weed and doesn't give a fuck how much it costs. What are they like? There's something similar between them all. Like you said, there's business people.
Yeah, because I'll go in and it's like, I'm like, what's your strongest indica?
Right.
Like, just give it to me.
And so like,
don't tell me, I'm not like, a lot of the time the percentages they got on the jars aren't necessarily the one that seems the most powerful.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, now we're figuring out like, the terps have so much to do with it. And then pretty soon the phytochemicals, people are going to start getting into it.
What do you mean phytochemicals?
Like the chlorophyll.
Okay.
And all the things that like help for photosynthesis.
Because they'll have one that I'll smoke one that'll say like 26% or something, and then I'll smoke another one that'll say like 18% and the 18 will kick its ass.
Dude, I got a same thing. I smoked
I'm like,
some.
What's going on?
It was like the first time I'd ever seen testing. It was years ago, and I was just like sick. And they had the percentages on it, and I was like, "This is fucking nuts." And I knew I liked ChemDog. I was like, and I loved it, but it was only 17%. And I was like, "But that shit fucked me up." And then this other one's like 26. It's like, "Well, I'll get this one." And I'm sure it wasn't whack, but it just didn't get me high, and I didn't really understand because at that point I was still just like some TV dude buying weed.
You just smoking weed, and then you say,
I would go in and ask. I learned that you ask the bud tender. That's what, in those days, they all smoked everything. Well, in those days, we could smoke everything. So I learned, ask the bud tender.
They know what's good. They're there all day.
Well, that's like, I smoke a lot of grass, right? But if I have a choice, I'd rather not smoke it like cigarettes just to, get what I'm looking for out of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what happens when you're on some like lame shit. It doesn't really have the effect it's supposed to have. But when you get the stuff you want, it's like, oh, you actually put it down halfway through and be good for a few hours if you'd like to. You know what I mean?
We were really lucky in the fact that like we had a lot of patients like you that were really that considered their buzz and thought about it and like what they liked about it and were able to come in and articulate it. So we were able to we had a lot of confidence carrying a wide variety of expensive stuff. And we actually carried a lot of economy stuff too, but we started to understand that if we carried all these things, that people like us that had our own personalities that were very curious about weed would eventually buy everything in the shop.
Yeah, we'll try it out.
You got to try it out, dude. It's the mystery.
I need to form my own opinion.
And exactly. I'm the expert here.
I don't care about I see your comments and shit, but I want to try. I need to form my own opinion. How do I know I don't like it?
So we tried to make it so that no matter how many times you came there, there was probably no statistical way that you're going to have made it through all the new stuff. And
right.
We became kind of like a drag strip. This is the weed in Studio City. We became like a drag strip where like you would bring your brand and race it against all the brands from Colorado.
See who moved.
Yeah. Can we take on Open?
What's up? Who's ready?
Can we take on Bang? Right. And we would be like, fuck, give it a shot, dude.
Let's go.
Like, let's go.
Let's make it happen.
And we're like, hey, dude, if you'll, could sign us some stuff and then come in and do like 2 patient appreciation days and post on your Insta. I was like, we'll fuck it. Let's try it out. And that's what's missing from the industry now is that you can't really do that. Like we could come up
with delete you.
Yeah. Well, you got to be in the system and you have to go through this entire program. Whereas we could just like get some bomb shit, print some labels at your house, fucking go get some jars downtown and we had a brand. We had a fucking brand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we could try it out. And if they liked it.
People were doing that big time with wax. You know what I mean? Because they were like getting trim from their buddy. They didn't even grow or nothing. And their buddy was throwing the shit away.
And some of them had clever names.
So they would take garbage bags of that and then they would get a little, just an envelope.
Yeah.
From Office Depot.
Oh, dude.
Come with the parchment.
And then a sticker with the label printed on it.
Sometimes I still find those envelopes places like with concentrates in them because
I have a box of them at my house.
They're like beat up old playing cards
like a museum
with like oily fingerprints.
People are still doing them.
Yeah.
People.
No, and you could because we did that for a long time at Nameless until we finally switched over to different packaging. But like for
compliance?
We went longer. Everyone had to switch everything for compliance, but also they were so easy to store because you could fit, a box of those, you could get like 144 half grams or whatever, and they're no problem. So it was like, wait, this is a good format. So people stuck with it for a while. And then, Gold Coast kind of really messed it up. They were like, let's get this cool plastic box and a gold foil label. And it was great. And then Prime came out, and they,
foil packaging,
and all this stuff. And then, and then Moxie and, at Nameless, we were always a little behind the curve because that was part of our shtick was like, we're not rushing into anything. Like we're OG.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're OG. And sort of the brand voice is we're the best and you like us because you're the best. Team Nameless. You know what I mean? Right. And people were like, you're right, I am the best. Fuck, let's smoke. and so we started developing those archetypes, and for most brands, it was some were fun, some were serious, some were sunny, some were hippie, some were super urban.
Just marketing strategy.
Yeah, and everybody kind of figured out their place. Like there was one urban brand, there was one like futuristic brand, there was a fun brand, you know what I mean?
A sophisticated brand.
Right, everyone sort of fell into their place, and it was really fun for a while. And the competition was interesting because like we had our own brands that we were making, but all of our friends had brands, so it was cool as fuck to be able to go, dude, come and we'll try it, and I was, and instead of like, a lot of people's like, why would you carry your competitors? Like, why would I not? People are buying this shit. Like, why? Because I provide weed to people and they want this weed. If they want it over mine, I just need to make better weed.
What would you tell somebody right now if they were trying to get in the cannabis industry, trying to come with a new brand? What would be like what would you tell them as being there in the beginning, seeing how it used to go? Look, I got a video right here of you with 700 grams of hash.
Yeah, that was ballsy at the time.
Yeah, but do you see how it looks like a chocolate fudge brownie?
Like, it's funny because like that one got me a lot of street cred because like
this has almost 200,000 views.
Yeah, and now it got deleted a couple. It's a re-edit because they kept getting me for music because I got a thing for Biggie Smalls. So who does it though, dude? Fucking A. Biggie Smalls.
So this would probably be at 1 million views without getting deleted all the time.
Yeah. I think there's a couple that may have hit 2 million or whatever, but I was doing a volume of videos after a while because I could only produce an episode like once every couple months.
But you would put like work into it. I see you travel to like Egypt and then get on an airplane and then go into like the combs and find a lighter.
No,
I'm
like, you come. Yeah, no, I mean zip wiring into a cave in Mexico. Yeah, like I went big, but then we also did a whole bunch of like you said, sometimes those little videos
they do the best.
And it was like something would come in the shop, and I figured out this because I didn't want to edit anymore. I was like stoner phone. Yeah, and you could start shooting videos on like the iPhone 5, so it was just like fucking doo, and it was all easy. And we were like, fuck it, we'll just do that. And that wasn't some of those got a lot of views because it was like triple bong hit, and that if you have the right title,
and the clickbait.
But we had, even compared to other shops, we just had so much concentrates.
I see. Is that how you got these videos? Is you just got to collect all the
so much concentrates? And what happened was, since I was good at running the store, and I was new to the weed game. You know what I mean?
You were just a guy.
I was just a dude, and like 6 months in, they're like, "All right, you're in charge now."
But you've been smoking since you were 15.
Right. Every day. Like all this new concentrates and all this shit. And I'd just been like a TV producer at this time. So for me, it was just a business proposition. It's like, wait, I can get it for this much. And I think I could sell it for this much. Okay, cool. Let's do it. So in my mind, it was, well, if we want to make more money, we have to buy more concentrates. We have to buy more hash, period. Okay. Right. How can you sell more hash if you don't buy more hash? Right. Seemed pretty logical. So everyone would come in, and I got this reputation as a dude who bought shitloads of hash and oil. And because I was so intrigued, and I was like, what is this? Oh my God, what is, look at that. And you did it. And I was all nerdy, like, and how did that happen? Oh my God. And then what's that strain? What's the story there? And I would geek out with these guys. And because I was geeking out for real on their shit, they would come to me first and be like, Dave, what do you think? And it got this, because my reaction was always like, fuck, bro. And
let's try it.
They were used to seeing this stuff. I wasn't used to seeing fucking buckets full of hash. Right. I'd never seen a bucket full of hash. I'd seen little things of hash, or like a little jar of hash. Yeah, and so what we realize is like the more concentrates we have, once again, high-end consumer comes into the shop. Each time they have something new to try, and there were hash people, there were wax people, there were weed people.
Yeah, I got exposed to it from being on tour, and I get to go to different, Amsterdam or like in Copenhagen, right? In Denmark, and
and that's
different places around the world that have their own private little.
Growing up, that Amsterdam was always like this mythical fairyland, like someday, and it was like, someday we'll go to Amsterdam, and all the stoners would be like, because it was like just this beautiful place where you could smoke weed, and they had prostitutes and crazy.
But let me ask you something. When you went to Amsterdam, did you go there after bud-tending and being
way after? Yeah, no.
So when you went there, how'd you feel?
You know where this is going.
How'd you feel? Because we all think like, Amsterdam is the heaven.
I found, honestly, I went around and I geeked out. My girlfriend was so mad because we had been on a cruise and we only had like one day there, and I wanted to stop into like every shop, right? And so I was like running, and luckily a whole lot of them around that big square there. You know what I mean? So I was running to those, and it was a lot of really shitty weed and a lot of embarrassing moments. A lot of embarrassing moments because, dude, I'd been on a wine cruise on the Rhine for like 3 weeks. Like we'd been traveling around, so I'd been eating just capsules, and I hadn't smoked in a long time because you're always surrounded by a group of like rich old people. You can't really break out and smoke. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I was taking pills, and I wanted some weed so bad, and I went to 6 places before I found one that had bomb indoor.
It's like the McDonald's.
I went to like
gray area.
Yeah. So it was like, in that way, it was really disappointing. It was fine when I finally did find some bomb weed, but it was really hardcore haze, so total headpiece. It was super silver haze, and it was bomb. But I was only like there for a day, so I did something they never do there. It sat down and fucking just broke up that gram, rolled up a joint, started smoking it myself. Straight. And the chick was like, do you always smoke in this way? You just smoke a gram every time? You know what I mean? They're like, dude, just blowing 20 euros like it's fucking nothing. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, fuck, I'm just here for a day. And we trip out, in California, this is what we do. They're like, you don't put tobacco, you don't do anything. No, fuck that, dude. We fucking blaze G's to the dome. And I got so high because it was such a, that head high, that like distracting high.
Yeah.
Dude, I literally in like 20 minutes after leaving that shop, I almost got run over by one of those trains. I almost got hit by a bus. Real shit. Happened twice. And I was like,
It's the Matrix.
Yeah, dude, because you're surrounded by, you're high as fuck. You haven't been high in like 3 weeks. Yeah. And Gothic castles. And dude, Amsterdam is weird because those streets are fucking alive. It's like Hong Kong.
You're actually kind of shocked that you don't see like a news report in the hotel every day about someone
tourist
getting
getting
they got the rhythm down, but there's you're high as fuck. You're
riding a bike that you just found.
If you go there for a cup or whatever, you're high as fuck. You're drinking beer or whatever, and there's bikes coming at you. Yeah, you're eating mushrooms. There's bikes. All these like blonde girls going 50 miles an hour coming at you, and you're fucking dodging, and then you're in a fucking.
And they're hot, so you're looking at them instead of the.
You think you're standing at like a coffee shop having a coffee, and you realize you're on a train track or something. You're like, why'd they put this coffee shop next to the fucking train? No, so Amsterdam is intense. It's a tiring city, but the weed, everywhere I would go after that, after like Los Angeles and San Francisco, going to those dispensaries, every time I go somewhere in the world, I always had the best weed. You know what I mean? People are just like, fuck, these got the California, that dude from California. They could tell when you went to Burning Man,
Cali's definitely
they could tell you were from California when you opened up your bag of weed. Because all the New Mexico and Nevada people and stuff like that. But we're mostly from California, so there was a lot of bomb weed there. But that was for me, that was a golden age, dude. Like,
why isn't Dave doing any more weed reports? Why aren't you doing?
You know what? I've got to get back to it.
Why aren't you doing any shows? Why aren't you produce? You see how crazy? So, hey,
I'll bounce it off you guys.
You could probably identify where people are from by their bags of weed. Right? Like someone open their bag. Like, oh, you're from LA? And then the next guy's
Washington.
This dude's from British Columbia.
Yeah.
Yo, this guy's from British Columbia.
Yeah. Just I'll say hi to my friends up north. The saucy weed psychic. There's a concept. But so I'll bounce it off you guys because I'm here. You're both creatives and I respect both of your opinions very much. Should I do the weed report again or should it be Warden on cannabis?
What?
Because like now
Warden sounds scary though.
Does it? Is it like I want it to be like Maddow or fucking or Morning Joe?
What are you trying to do? Is it the same concept?
So, no, because here's the fucked up.
Because you see how content is now. You see what people want to see 8-gram dabs. They want to see you acting in ads.
So that's why I think I might have to pivot, and I don't know if I should.
Have you ever done that? What's the biggest gram dab you've taken?
I don't think I've ever done it. When I went to Canada to host a fucking Kush Cup, and they it was like fucking hazing, dude. They made me do. It was 1.5 grams, but it was a mixed dab of like all this shit, and then water hash was on it too, and they had it on a sublimator nail, so it was those big fucking crazy nails.
It was like party punch.
Because they were trying to see what I could do, because like they came up there, they were paying me all this money, and they're like, all right,
get high.
Dave Warden from the internet, let's see what you could do. You know what I mean? And at that time, I was at the top of my form, so I could kind of hang.
Let's go.
But eventually, because they just kept on going. They did 3 in a row, and I pulled that off, right? And then they made this one, and I never showed the footage of it because I blow snot like you would not believe.
That's great, though. People want to see that.
Dude, it was like... and fucking just snot on my face. It wasn't like a little, dude, there was a bubble. I mean, but it was like a handful of snot.
You want some advice?
Post that slapped himself in the face.
You're going to make it on World Star. You're going to make it on all those viral websites.
See, in those days, blowing snot wasn't fun.
No,
now you're right. Today, that's gold.
They're like, look at, and it's an old dab. It's a throwback. So you'll be like, I've been doing this shit, bitch. Where you been at? You were swimming in your daddy's nutsack when I was dabbing. Because now you got to think of the whole audience. Because I'm sure you see it too. There's a lot of people that create content right now on the social media platforms, and a lot of it is stuff that you've probably already done. I've seen a lot of stuff that I've done already. You're like, but I mean, everything repeats itself. So there's a whole new audience out there that are viewing these things that weren't around 8, 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Sure.
So I know you still got that creative.
And the thing is that most of the people watching my show are like 15, so they're a prime demographic now.
And they spend money.
And they spend money, and maybe they'd love to see me back. So I'm probably gonna come back. But you know how
technology's better.
It's so much better.
It's easier to make shit happen.
That's for sure. You
can always have people help you if you don't want to do all the crazy ass boring stuff.
Right.
And I feel like because have you heard of Dabbing Granny?
I mean, just from Insta, from Insta.
She's almost at 1 million followers. All she does is like take dabs.
God bless
take
her.
shots. Shout out to
bless
Gail.
her. You know what? She's
Shout out
doing
to
the
Gail.
Lord's work. Gail.
I was on the phone with her the other day.
God
She's
bless
killing
you,
it.
Gail.
But that's what I'm saying.
I want to
That's
see
amazing.
I want to see the break dancing dabbing granny.
What?
There's got to be one.
Yeah.
There's got to be
Oh,
one.
she gets down. We were dancing. We got a couple of videos of us getting down together.
Nice. But yeah, so I mean, you know,
I'm serious.
I think about bringing it back and
Don't think about it. Make it happen.
I'll make it happen. All right.
Do I
I'll
have to
make a
bug you?
commitment.
Because I'd love to see the
No,
weed report or whatever.
I'll see if I can find the magic. I'll see if I can find the magic again.
Why
baby.
don't you bring the weed report back and a segment could be Warden on cannabis?
That's
and it could
dude.
be like,
You just okay.
that could be like a little segment on your.
He
Because you
figured
already
it out.
have the name,
Right,
So
he
you
figured
can't
it out.
rebuild.
Exactly.
No, damn it. You see what he did? He made a segment.
Come on, let's go.
We witnessed that.
Can I be a part of the weed
Of
report?
course.
Can we create?
Yeah, dude. Let's fucking collabo.
Weed report with the Warden.
Because we have a different view on cannabis. You know, some of these people right now have only been smoking 2, 3, 4 years.
Right.
It's only cannabis. So
Well, we've been on the journey, so it's like
we've had friends get
seen some
arrested.
shit. Oh, yeah.
Seen people go to jail. We've been a part of raids. We've seen the whole growth of cannabis from just smoking big old bong loads to getting small little rigs to taking big old dabs.
Now,
It's
you
like
would
the smaller
sit
your rig
around-
got, the bigger the dab got.
there were days when like cops, people, your patient would come and be like, hey, there's a whole bunch of cops on the street. And maybe they were just responding to a domestic. Or oftentimes they were going to raid another dispensary. There were so many in the Valley in LA and Hollywood that you never knew when it was your turn.
Nope.
And if you had a license or not, it didn't matter.
They were gangsters. They just want to take your shit.
They could find. They would try and find a reason. We lived in fear of that we were super strict. We had a license and
Yeah,
we were super
you guys
strict.
didn't let me in one time because I didn't have my ID, but I had a passport.
Yeah, we were dicks.
And your dude was like, nah. I was like, bro, this is like a federal document. It's not a state. He's like, no, we need California. I was like, all right, man, fuck this place. But that was when you guys were in the small spot.
That's true. Though.
Yeah, the small spot, and then we worked through some security guards at that spot. Like there was a high turnover, we'll say.
for
security
I was
guards
kind
at
of
that spot.
upset. I was about to go rant on the podcast back then, but I didn't.
No,
'Cause
like-
I've been working on this interview for a minute, Dave. You know, I've been trying to get you for a couple years.
Yeah, I apologize.
No,
I kind of like smoke pot for a living, so I probably forgot a couple times.
It's a lifestyle.
No, and you know what? I also think it was always something that was like seemed so like just like, oh, of course we'll do it. That like, yeah, I never locked it in because it was more like a you know what I mean? One of those floating things in the universe.
So I'm glad we were making
No,
this
dude,
happen.
thank you for locking it down. No, it's
I saw you randomly. I was we were
at an event. We were networking.
We were at one of these new corporate events too.
Yes. Oh,
this
yeah.
is what kind of made me think of this idea.
Dude.
Where we were actually
Yeah,
at.
I know.
They have an event now where it's brands get together to educate people on their product and give them nothing's for sale. It's just a bunch of brands.
A little sample, like you
a
might get a little
convention.
shot glass of like medicated tea or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Take a little
Nothing crazy.
sample dab.
They give some. And a couple companies give out some pre rolls.
Here's our topicals. Here's our pre-rolls.
It was nice. It was way too crowded.
There's a lot of people.
It was a mosh pit.
There was a lot of. I felt like there were a lot of culture vultures there. A lot of people that never really seen weed before in their life that are trying to get involved.
It seemed like there were a lot of cool people, and it seemed like there was like it was like half people. I knew every face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know every name, but I was like recognize.
Yeah.
And the other half, I feel like yes, very much. There's an entire.
And
Is that part of the? That's part of the objective, though, isn't it? Like,
yeah, no, it
bring
is.
some new faces
it is.
in and like
But the thing that-
educate them properly.
And to bring they're bringing it to the mainstream. So that's just gonna be a part of it. You want new people to
It's
be.
nice
think
for
this is the
it's
thing
nice
that-
for some of their first influence to be like from some credible people. you
Yeah, I
know?
think this is the thing that irks me the most about it is these people claim to be like professionals or they understand they've been doing it and you've never seen them before. They've never probably handled weed, seen what it looks like in a grow room.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, we're a professional. I read a lot of books about weed.
They're like
I'm gonna be here.
a bandwagon.
Well,
almost.
I went to a university for cannabis.
I haven't been hearing it as much lately, but for the past couple years, people would get investment money and they'd be like, "Oh, well, who's going to grow for you?" Which is the most important question of all, you know. And they'd be, "Oh, well, my cousin. No, he grows great weed, dude. All through growing up, he always had the best weed." And you ask him like, "Well,
he's got
gotta,
the paint buckets ready to go.
Right, totally." And that was a big problem. A lot of nepotism, a lot of stuff, and it wasn't like nepotism back in the day when if your cousin grew weed, you probably helped him grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This was like a different vibe because like people wanted to come back out of other industries and get into the weed thing just because it's cool. It's like there's successful doctors and successful lawyers and successful architects and stuff getting into weed because it's a .com style gold rush, right? I mean, it's FOMO, it's Bitcoin, and everyone's rushing in with super little information. They just know that weed sells, so we're just going to make money.
Millions of people smoke it. Let's get it.
Kind of my role now in sort of the community, which isn't. It's frustrating sometimes. You roll in and you have to fill in the blanks for everybody. It's like, okay, so you're going to grow some weed. How much weed are you going to grow? What strains? How much are we going to get? What is this dude's record? Now we're going to make the concentrates.
What are you putting in the dirt? What are you putting on the plant?
Right. I mean, there's 1,000.
Is it fucking?
And there's 1,000 things. And so you have to make sure that each person that's in charge of each segment actually knows what they're doing. And dude, a lot of the good people have been taken up. They have their own brands or they've been hired by corporations or stuff, but it's hard to get sometimes like good people. The people are available, but it's the technical aspect of it that, there's a huge demand for people who can make hash oil right now. You know what I mean? And if you can kind of survive in a 9-to-5 world a little bit, there's a
go
lot
to a lab and not
and not your garage.
Wear a coat, wear nets, and have to take down everything you do and write everything you do, not just sit there with parchment and a fucking glass tube.
But there's also that's also
over
kind
hot
of
water,
watering down the talent pool a little bit, and that people that don't maybe have enough experience are getting in at big corporations, you know what I mean, in certain roles. And it's going to affect.
You can make beef jerky and wax at the same time.
Yeah, and it's definitely frustrating for, I think, sometimes the old school, the legacy cannabis people, as they call them. We call them OG weed people. When kind of the role you've had or what you've been doing, people feel like, oh, well, somebody just with more postgraduate degrees can do this job. Because look, you did it and you only have a single college degree. You know what I mean? You're like, well, no, fuck it. We worked hard and we figured this out and we, put in the time and the effort and took the risk.
Hands on.
And hands on. So we've interacted with consumers. Like we actually know these people. And now you have people.
I got real life data.
Well, and they're coming in with brands and they don't own retail. So that means they're kind of getting all their consumer info through either focus groups or through just kind of sales data.
Yeah.
Whereas the people who have retail are down there on these streets, going, hey, what do you want? Or look, they're actually buying this. I know this one looks prettier, but they're buying this one. You know what I mean? And there's that sort of disconnect when you go in.
The thing for the connoisseur isn't necessarily for the consumer.
Right. And they make something and it's like, and it's all the awesome packaging. And then somebody opens up the jar and the weed sucks. They're only going to buy that once. If no matter how nice the packaging is, you're like, dude, I just spent $72 on an eighth of weed, 72 freaking bucks. And it came in this box in a tin and it plays music when I open it.
Yeah.
And shit. But then you get to the actual weed
it's
and
trash.
It fucking sucks. It's terrible, dude. There's nothing dank about it. It's too dry. It's too small. It's not strong enough. It tastes like shit.
And it feels bad because this is what people are going. The first time people are going into dispensaries or weed shops. Now I don't even know if they're called dispensaries anymore. The first time they're going to a weed store, it's this is their first experience, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get the most expensive thing. I saw this. It's just the brand, and they don't really know what they're looking for."
There's a billboard, yeah,
and then they get it, and they're like, "Oh."
There's a whole trend online right now, and I probably shouldn't go off about it.
Yeah, let's go.
Because I'm trying to get some of these jobs at these massive corporations, but
all the billboard ads.
No, always be wary of a company that's advertising itself, its culture, or its employees instead of its products. Okay, and I don't want to drop any names, Cura and Candescent. I'm so fucked. Right, exactly. It's I don't care. It was so funny actually. Ignite. I was in Venice last night, driving past one of their many things pasted on the wall, and people were drawing and drawing on the chicks in the commercials like you did in magazines when you were a little kid.
Drawing dicks and shit.
The best one, all that stuff. But the best one was just somebody put a word bubble and said Pink Floyd. And I was like, that is fucking hilarious. That was the one that worked the most. I was in the back of an Uber, reading all the fucked up shit they were putting on the Ignite poster. And the one that stood out to me was Pink Floyd. Just this hot chick saying, Pink Floyd. So if you watch their Instagram or social media or whatever, or their videos or whatever, and they don't spend a lot of time on the product, or it's about this person is a vet and they do this. And it's not about them using cannabis, really. It's about they work here. And we're showing you how diverse and interesting and equality-minded we are. It's that is great. Can you show me the weed, please?
Yeah, what's the problem?
You know what I mean? And then, they'll do these employee profiles, and some are fun, and those are kind of entertaining, but it's like, well, I still want to see the weed. Yeah, get to know us, what we're trying to do. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to get high.
We're going to make, and everyone has basically the same pitch. We're making craft cannabis for the connoisseur consumer.
Right, man. It should just say,
is that a 4? Craft cannabis connoisseur consumer.
This shit will kick your ass.
Right.
And I'll be like, oh, hey, okay.
And there's somebody who's going to pop soon doing something like that. Not like candescent or like floaty words. Not floaty words, but like badass weed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That gas.
And that's bat to the head.
Yeah, dome ripper.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like fucking something awesome. Because what everyone's kind of doing
has his weed, and it's called gas.
Everyone, right, and that's dope. That's fucking dope, right? It's gas.
Gas.
Like,
you got
that
gas,
fuel,
bro?
you got the gas. Fuck yeah, dude. Octane,
like
bitches.
The 87, the 89, the 91.
See, that speaks to me. Like I'm like, that's kind of cool because everyone else is trying to go, everyone's trying to get soccer moms to buy their weed. That is the most prized demographic, is like women's, like they want women, they want moms specifically, but because thing about female consumers, and we learned this in retail.
We just do one that's just called weed for chicks.
Weed for chicks, dude. Or chick weed.
There are brands that are going directly towards
and that's what I mean.
Female market.
Because it's a safer play than going for male market because what we found is that women are more brand loyal. And they spend more money, you know what I mean? And they will spend for quality.
Chemically
and they'll buy their girls gifts too.
If you have some bomb ass weed and you can get it to a female consumer, and they'll identify with your brand. They'll smoke it for a long time.
Chemically balanced for a woman.
Right. Well, and just like not harvested by blood diamond children. And that's everyone's look
at that free consulting.
And that's because that came from the cosmetic industry. People were like,
free trade.
These expensive cosmetics were not made by children or out of acid.
Look at you giving out free tips, free marketing tips out here on the podcast. Man, I could talk to you for probably another hour about all this shit.
Seriously, dude.
I appreciate you. Where can people find you? What are you doing? Are you social media? Do you do that still?
I got a little bit. I'm tiny. I'm kind of undercover, but I got The Real Dave Warden on Instagram, at The Real Dave Warden. And, then there's a weed report on YouTube. It's a lot of old videos, but I put some new stuff on soon, apparently.
Let's go. Come on. Let's do it. I want to get with you.
And then Facebook, the Weed Report on Facebook just started posting a couple of videos. Right now, if you guys...
No Facebook.
No, fuck Facebook.
No Facebook.
Okay, no Facebook? Is that
I mean, it's just like, it's no Facebook.
All right, no Facebook then. Fuck Facebook.
Yeah, you got to make it happen.
But thanks for having me on the show, man. It's a fucking pleasure hanging out. Good to see you, brother.
Bro, man, we're going to bring the Weed Report back. You inspired a lot of people to do what they do today.
World's greatest stoner. Here we go.
And,
thanks, brother.
It's great to have you here finally. Sid, appreciate you coming through, Sid.
The dog's on here too. I like that. Fred's on.
Check him out. Never know when Sid's going to pop through on the podcast. Appreciate all y'all hanging out. You know where you can find us. Purple Haze Radio. Right here on Dash, iTunes, Spotify, all that. This is the highest host, Adam Mill. Don't forget, get higher. Yeah. Bye.
Later.